This is John, Vintage Fisherman. I got an oldie here. It's a Bache Brown Spinster Air-X division of the Lionel Corporation. Now, I'm tearing it down today, but it's gonna take me a while to clean it up because I'm gonna polish this thing. I'm gonna make an attempt at polishing this thing and get all this chrome, all the aluminum. It's not chrome, it's aluminum back to its original glory. Why is that not coming off of there? Oh, that's interesting. I think that has to unthread somehow or another. No. Oh, I remember now. I've done one of these before. It just slides off of it. The anti-reverse isn't working on this reel, so everything else seems to be fine. Why am I using that old screwdriver? That's not a screwdriver anymore. It's a pry bar. Oh, me. That's why I don't use my Snappy here for a pry bar. Mr. Twist. If I was at work, I would probably get my Snap-on dealer to replace this, but I'm not at work right now, so I never see him. He comes around on Tuesdays. Maybe I could just run over there on a Tuesday and catch him and say, hey man, I need another screwdriver. They normally have everything you need on the truck. Well, ain't that pretty? I think that just pulls off. That pulls out. And you can pull your shaft out. But I never have figured out how these things come apart. So polishing it up may be a real chore. I don't know. I think they're press fitted. Y'all tell me. I may not do what I thought I was going to do to this thing because it's just trying to polish it up with all this stuff in the way is going to be very, very difficult. Let's see if I can get the anti-reverse working, and if I can, I might go a little further with it. What is the problem with the anti-reverse? It all seems to be in order there. Interesting. It's backwards or something. What the devil? Yeah, it would never work right because the pawl. Let's think about this. Let's see, the reel would crank like this. Yeah, it's just riding around in there. It's not. What did they do? It has to be wrong from the factory. This is upside down, I believe. I wonder if that pulls out. I doubt it. We could try it. Then flip it over. But if you see what I'm saying, it's... None of that makes any sense. It seems to be upside down. Yeah, that's what's wrong. Somebody's put it back together wrong. Look at this. This is craziness. I gotta watch this spring don't go flying on me. Check this out. So this comes out. This anti-reverse was never working in this reel. It's going to be a booger to fix because there's not a lot of room up in there. I want to say that goes like that. The things that make you go, I've had a few of these lately. So anyway, I'm going to tear this reel down today. And wow. Is that right? That can't be right. It's put too much twist on the spring. I'm going to have to do a little research and see which way this dog goes. I want to say it goes like this, maybe? Wow. I don't know. I might have to find one and see what the inside of it looks like, because this was wrong. I can guarantee it was wrong. I want to say it's supposed to spin all the way around. Nope. Like that. Is that right? It's going to slip out of my hands before I get it in place. Watch this damn spring go flying into the orbit in here. All right, check this out. See there now, when you throw it, it comes down. Let's try the gear in there. No anti-reverse, right? Well, still not doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, I know why. Haha. Somebody put it together wrong, but it still don't feel quite right, but I think I got it though. That needs to be pounded all the way down in there. It was never in there right from the factory, folks. Never. We're going to take my block and we're going to put, this is what I do for a living. I fix things that the factory messes up every daggone day. That's what being a mechanic's all about. Fixing what some engineer couldn't get right. In this case, it was assembly, which is very rare that the assemblers, the blue-collar workers of the world, usually get it right. It's those freaking overpaid white-collar idiots that get it wrong. Okay. Look at that. And if you're a white-collar person, look, I'm not slamming on you. But engineers make way more mistakes than the assemblers do. But they always blame it on assembly. Always. I worked in a factory for a lot of years, and I've heard it so many times. Look at that. We now have a working anti-reverse. I'm going to clean this reel up and figure out what I'm going to do with it. I'll be right back. That's the whole reel, by the way. There's nothing else to take off of. Hey, it's John. I'm back on this Bache Brown Spinster. So I made an executive decision. I'm not going to try to polish this thing up. Nope. I'm going to clean it real good. And I'm going to put it together and probably put it on my shelf. I like the original patina on it. And to polish it up is going to require a whole lot of work here. So this, and you saw me struggle to get that spool off there. I remember there's a rubber plug that goes down in there. As you tighten the drag knob down, it spreads this plastic out against the spool, and that's your drag. Kind of cool. I think the longer, can't remember how it was. Let's see how it looks when I get it in there. Yeah, the longer one goes on the bottom. So you got two little bushings. And there your crosswind. This is cool. You're going to like how this works. I'm going to grease all this up good. This reel is, now that the anti-reverse is working, is a good little reel to go out and use, actually. So that long one will go in there. You put your shaft in. That could use a little bit of extra help there with some grease. You put that in there, and this pin goes into that. We'll get it in there eventually. I think I gotta move it down just a hair. All right, let's slide this back. Okay, so that pin goes in there. Then you got this bushing goes up on top. Well, that bushing rides in that groove, and that's your crosswind. Isn't that cool? It'll be a little bit difficult to line up, but we'll get it. We'll get it. It just works up and down, back and forth like that. We're going to put, well, let's get this in. Let's get this in here first. I've got the anti-reverse cut off. That probably should get a little bit of grease because of the plastic. Isn't that cool that it works now? It wasn't easy to get that line back up, but it was not impossible either. I think maybe somebody took it apart. Maybe it wasn't done at the factory. I'd hate to think a factory worker got something that far off on it, but it's hard to say. We're going to rotate that around to where it's right there. So the eccentric's all the way back. We're going to lubricate those screw holes because this is aluminum. And we're going to put this thing together. So that bushing has got to go up into that eccentric. Something about like that, I believe. Bache Brown Spinster. Isn't that something? This is where trains and fishing intermesh. If you are a train person, whether it be real trains or toy trains or hobby trains, if you want to call them, the Lionel Corporation is synonymous with trains. I don't care whether they're big or small. This reel was made by Airex, which is a division of the Lionel Corporation. Let's see if I got it together right. We'll know here pretty quick. Yep, made a pop there. Not sure why. We'll tighten everything back down and check it out good. It wasn't tight. Look at that. That is working as it should. That's how you cast it. And it flips it back down. Ah, it's a cool reel. And so, flip this up out of the way. This spool just slips over that piece. And then your drag knob, which is metal, threads down. And the tighter you tighten it, it squeezes that green plastic part out. See how it's smooth there? It only takes about a quarter of a turn. It doesn't take much to go lock down. So part of me says, because I really like these old Bache Browns, says, you know, polish this bad boy up and make it look good and all that, blah, 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 blah. And part of me says, nah, man, just leave that patina on there. This thing has caught some fish in its day, I think. Somebody went in there and messed with that daggone anti-reverse. I don't think they got it wrong from the factory. I think I might have misspoke there, but I think somebody took it apart and didn't know how to put it back together. You can cut the anti-reverse off now. That's cool. I like it. Well, that really was a vintage reel. That's going back a minute or two. It says Bache Brown, B-A-C-H-E, Bache, I think it's Bache. Bache Brown Spinster. A division of Airex. You could probably take a little bit of emery, or not emery, but 3M, and really make that thing shine, because it's aluminum. I used to pour aluminum. I worked in a foundry. A lot of people don't realize I'm a mechanic. But in 86 or 87, I was working as a Toyota tech. I moved over to assistant service manager at the Toyota dealership. I was only 20 years old. I hated it. I wanted to go back to being a mechanic, but I could not get along with the powers that be at that dealership. I heard a place over in Salem, Virginia was hiring, a place called Graham White Manufacturing, and they made parts for the air brakes on locomotives. So this is where, and I started out as a kid. I loved trains. I had my old train layout like a lot of kids. I'm a hobby guy, you know. I'm always into hobbies, and I had this huge layout. And so I was into trains. Mine were HO. They were smaller ones, not the O gauge that Lionel made, and bigger. But I used the smaller stuff and play with smaller stuff. Anyway, so I started out as a mechanic, went into work at Graham White, and I was hired as a maintenance mechanic to work on machinery, forklifts, whatever they had that broke down. And we hit hard times in 87. So I hadn't been there but about a year. And I was afraid I was going to lose my job. They laid a bunch of people off. That thing is severely cut right there from line, so it has been used. Wow. I don't know what kind of line they put on this thing, but it is. Really need to replace this bell arm if I can find one. but it is what it is. It's an old reel. Times got slow, and I told him, I said, look, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I need a job. I got a baby on the way. It's 1987. It's July of 87. So they sent me over to the foundry. I'd only been in the foundry to work on stuff. Stinky job. I mean, foundries just got a bad smell to them. This foundry used phenolic resin cast molds, and I wound up in the mold room. I made the molds and the cores for the molds, and I didn't work out on the actual pouring floor, but I did work up in the aluminum brass shop. We call it the brass shop. I never poured brass. I had facial hair, mustache, so I couldn't use, and I chose not to shave. I couldn't use the respirator to pour brass. Back then, brass had lead in it, and it was very dangerous to pour. And trust me, I've seen a lot of good men die from pouring brass. And they were smokers, so the company blamed it all on the smoking. But we all know that brass was bad for them. But I did pour aluminum, and it was really neat. Our aluminum tank was probably 500 gallons of molten aluminum all the time. And it's really neat. You put gas into aluminum because you want a certain amount of air bubbles in it. And you take gas out of aluminum. You use, I want to make sure I'm right, because it's been about 30 years since I've done it, but we use potatoes. You had this big mushroom-looking cast steel thing that you would put the potatoes under and push them down in the aluminum. Of course, aluminum melts at like 1,300 degrees, whereas cast and steel doesn't melt till you get to 2000s, But so you could put we put gas in, take gas out. You had to check the porosity of the metal. I remember all that stuff. It's been years. We had a metallurgist there that ran the spectrograph, and we pour a little sample. They cut it, put it under spectrograph. They'd tell you if your porosity was right, and they'd say, pour it. You poured it. And so I did pour some aluminum back in the day. I know how to say aluminum. I say it funny for the fun of it. So I've not only worked as a mechanic most of my life, but I worked as a foundry worker. And hats off to anybody that's still in that business. That is hard work. We ran 7 days a week, 3 shifts a day. I'll take that back. We ran 5 days a week, 3 shifts a day, and then we ran a weekend shift. They worked 12-hour days. And most days I was on third shift. I worked part of every day of the week. Like my Saturday was Friday night, and I got off at Saturday morning at 7, and I went back in Sunday night at 10. I worked 10 to 7. Or maybe it was 11 to 7. I did that for 5 years before I got transferred back to daylight. I worked in the mold room for I ran the mold room. I wasn't a supervisor. I was a lead person for 7 or 8 years. Then I moved back into being a mechanic. I went over back to the other side of the street and worked as I ran the air brake shop, which we tore air brakes down and put them back together for Norfolk Southern and many other railroads. There for a long time, about every Norfolk Southern locomotive that went down the line, yours truly built the air brakes for it. So that's my story about aluminum. Hey, this is John, Vintage Fisherman. Appreciate you watching the video and listening to me talk about my work over the years. Probably why I don't feel good now, all that hard work in the foundry. That's hard work. That's real hard work. And dangerous work. I've seen a lot of good men get burned up in the foundry, lose limbs and everything else. This is John, Vintage Fisherman. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and take a kid fishing with an old Bache Brown, and tell him about Lionel trains while you're at it. Catch you on the next reel.